Once upon a time, there was a queen that lived in the kingdom of Zornia. This queen was very hard-working. She worked all day and all night, trying to keep up with the kingdom's demands and requests. And on top of all that, she would always push herself to only deliver the best of the best. She would throw the best parties, especially on holidays. She would always come up with the best solutions to problems. And all her rules were always reasonable. She would do this all day, every day, except on Sundays. Sunday was the day she did nothing. She would relax on her throne and do absolutely nothing. But not without announcing it to all of the villagers first. Sunday was like her day off, and of course, that day was the day that everyone needed something. One fateful Sunday, the queen was relaxing on her throne after telling all the villagers that she would not be answering any questions unless it was truly urgent, like your house is on fire urgent. She had just sat down when her servant came into the large room and announced,
"Your Majesty, one of your subjects is requesting to see you. I believe his name is Samuel."
The queen sighed. You see, Samuel was one of her least favorite subjects. The reason for this was always the same. He always found some way to interrupt her Sunday. And to make this even worse, he always interrupted her for the dumbest reasons. Like last week, he called her during her only day off to ask whether or not his chickens looked weird to her. He specifically asked her to examine each chicken just to make sure. So she spent all day looking at each of 100 chickens only to find nothing wrong. And the week before, he had asked her to look up in the sky just to make sure that Jupiter wasn't about to fall out of the sky and crush them. Yes, it was official to her that Samuel was a royal pain in the butt. So, as any good queen would do, she responded in her fanciest British accent.
"Tell him I'm busy and send him away. I have told you 1,000 times and 1,000 times again, Sunday is the day I do no work, and none of my subjects will have me change my mind about that. Now, run along unless you have something else to tell me that does not involve me getting out of my seat."
"But, Your Majesty,"
the servant replied,
"the subject specifically said, I must request a meeting with the Queen and tell her it's an emergency."
As much as the queen wanted to turn down Samuel, just as she did before, she remembered what she said when she first announced her absence.
"I will not be answering any questions today, no matter how many times you whine or cry or bang on the door, unless it is an absolute emergency. I will not answer."
Reminded of this, the queen sighed and told the servant to let him in.
"Your Majesty."
He greeted her with a bow and a smile.
"Samuel."
She greeted him with a scowl and a glare. He didn't seem to mind, though, and continued.
"I only have one request."
"No!" She continued, glaring and frowning at him, not even bothering with the fake British accent.
"But Your Majesty, I have done nothing to deserve this extreme form of contempt,"
responded Samuel, not fazed at all by her dismissive tone. The queen turned to the maid, who was just minding her own business, and said in her most queenliest voice,
"Do I have to?"
The maid hesitated before nodding her head yes. The queen turned back around and finally said,
"Fine. What do you want, Samuel?"
"Follow me,"
he said mischievously before starting to walk outside. Once they got outside, Samuel explained that he had dragged the queen out of her throne and into the cold fall breeze where the crunchy leaves beneath her feet were actually starting to make her uncomfortable.
"You see,"
he started,
"I seem to have lost my shoes. Can you help me find them?"
he asked. The queen took one look down and said,
"Your shoes are on your feet."
And she turned around to go back inside. When she did this, Samuel started to panic. He quickly thought up,
Actually, I have another pair of shoes that I wanted to wear today, but I couldn't find them, so I had to wear these instead.
The queen slowly turned back around and sighed, knowing that this would probably take all day like it usually did. But she came up with an idea.
Fine, I'll help you find your shoes,
she stated. But her annoyed scowl slowly turned into a mischievous smile to match the one on Samuel's face.
But if I help you find them and succeed, you have to never bother me on Sundays ever again.
Sounds like a plan,
Samuel said, once again unfazed.
So, what do these shoes even look like?
Asked the queen.
They are brown loafers with blue shoelaces,
Samuel replied.
All right, and where do we start?
Asked the queen.
First, let's check the meeting house. There was a meeting there that I went to, in those shoes.
The queen didn't question why he would have taken his shoes off at a meeting with the town. Instead, they both just walked to the meeting house, where they began to search high and low for the shoes. Correction, the queen began to search high and low for the shoes. Halfway through looking through a tall stack of boxes, the queen stopped and asked Samuel,
Are you going to help? These are your shoes.
Nah, I'm good,
he yelled from the ground. At this point, the queen was really close to just screaming and running back to the comfort of the castle. But she remembered the agreement she had made with Samuel and realized that if she just withstood this one day, this one last annoying Sunday, it would change all the Sundays to come. This gave her the motivation to keep going. But just as she was about to continue searching, the tower of boxes began to slowly tip over before finally tumbling down to the ground, taking the queen along with them. Kind of like the story of Jack and Jill, except Jack was too lazy to go up the hill, so Jill had to go up by herself. If it really was that story, it would go like this. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, but Jack was lazy and too tired to go up any farther. So really it was only Jill who went to fetch the pail, and before the pail was full she slipped, and then down she fell. The audacity of Samuel to not help the queen up to her feet, mind you, directly after he had refused to go up there with her, and instead decided to simply look at her and laugh.
You look ridiculous,
he remarked, clearly enjoying her embarrassing fall. Suddenly, in her slight moment of frustration and anger, she remembered her status. She got up to her feet and scowled.
I am your queen!
She yelled angrily at Samuel, and she could feel her face getting red. This seemed to surprise him, as if she would just brush it off or something.
I apologize, Your Majesty. I don't know what came over me.
He apologized as he bowed. He tried to sound sincere, but she could tell he was half joking. Finally, she sniffed and said,
It's not here. What's the next destination?
First, we can go to the restaurant, then the church, the market, or at least where the market used to be, and then the plaza, and then...
She cut him off before he could finish listing off random places in town.
Wait! There's more than one! I thought there would only be 1 or 2 more places. Not 1,000!
She exclaimed.
Nope. I was just about everywhere yesterday, and therefore, so could my shoes. Unless you want to call off the deal, I would be more than happy to walk you back to the castle. I mean, we could finish this some other some other day.
He replied, coolly brushing off his near mistake. At the sound of this, the queen just sighed for the 3rd time today and said,
Fine. Let's go while the sun is still out, because I'm pretty sure this is going to take forever.
And so, they went all over town looking for the shoes. They looked high and low, up and down, side to side, even on the roof of the castle, which the queen did decide to question, until nightfall was upon them and they both decided to go back to the castle. And by they both decided, I mean the queen remembered that she was the queen again and yelled at Samuel again. But just as they arrived, there they were, the shoes. The same shoes Samuel had described, the brown loafers with the blue shoelaces. There they were, right on the doorstep, and the queen was the first to notice.
I found them!
She squealed, which startled Samuel.
I found the shoes! I found the brown loafers with the blue shoelaces. Here they are. My days of no-sleep Sundays are over!
She screamed and hopped and danced around. She ran up to the steps and held up the shoes to the moonlight as if they were the Holy Grail or something. But then she stopped and she looked at Samuel and her heart sank. It sank lower than the Titanic times 10 because he was laughing. But it wasn't a cheery laugh, it was an evil laugh. It was the same laugh he had always given her on all the Sundays before that one, when she looked at the time and realized that it was nighttime, and when she gave him the same defeated look once he told her that all of her efforts were for nothing. And once he stopped laughing, he said,
Actually, back when we were at the meeting house, I realized that I saw the shoes on the rack back home. I must have just forgotten. Those shoes are mine, but they're just not my favorites. Sorry, Your Highness.
He grinned just as he did on all the other Sundays. The queen was speechless. It had been the same on all the other Sundays, but this one was the last straw. For once, she actually had a chance to end it all, but she was foolish enough to think that Samuel didn't have a plan in mind. She couldn't speak, she couldn't question. Instead, she screamed. So loud that the entire village could hear her. And it was at that moment she knew, queens don't get breaks.
Your mind to come up